Welcome to Power Lunch Live. I'm Rhett Power. Welcome. I think it's Thursday already in this week. This week has flown by. Thanks for spending some time with us today here, whether it's lunchtime or I know it's lunchtime on the East Coast, probably breakfast time on the West Coast. But nonetheless, thank you for being with us. The point of the Power Lunch is to have today's thought leaders, best-selling authors, CEOs, people who are doing amazing work in the world that we can learn from so that we can get better at what we do. That's the whole point of the show. And what I'd love to see is if you have questions, if you want to engage with us, please do that. We are broadcasting not only on LinkedIn Live, but we're on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and probably something else I'm not thinking about. I think even Twitch. I don't even know anything about Twitch, but anyway, I think we're on that platform too. But we monitor those platforms during the program. And if you have good questions, we will certainly put those to our guest. Now, if you like the program, give it a like or share so that your network can benefit from these conversations. Today, I'm excited about this conversation. This is somebody that you probably know. You've probably seen him on just about everywhere. And but he's also just really smart and really insightful and really gets some, I think, can be really helpful to us as entrepreneurs, particularly where we are today, coming through coronavirus and then some of these social injustice issues that we're facing as a country. Michalowicz is a former columnist at the Wall Street Journal. He's was a business makeover specialist on MSNBC. He's a creator of Profit First, which I'm sure and hopefully you read that book, which sold which helps hundreds of thousands of companies across the globe drive profit. His latest project is Fix This Next. We're going to talk a lot about that today. He's a popular keynote speaker, innovative entrepreneurial on innovative entrepreneurial topics. He's wrote sort of some cult classics like The Pumpkin Plan, The Toilet Paper Entrepreneur, and again, Clockwork. That's another one. Mike, welcome.
Rhett, thank you for having me. The only thing you did include all-around nice guy. Yeah, I hope people don't think I'm full of myself. I've had some good entrepreneurial experience, but some real challenges too, and have insights from both sides.
Well, the challenges are what makes us, I think. I mean,
yes.
That's what that's when you get through those, that's where, to me, that's where the satisfaction as an entrepreneur comes through. I mean, when you get through something tough, like we're going through now, and you come out on the other side of that, I think you're always better.
I agree. This is the formidable years. As we go through, at least as I go through, I never think like, oh, this is so valuable. This is such good learning. It's only in reflection. It's in reflection, like, oh, that was really good learning because the perspective changed.
Right. Yeah. No. When you're going through it, it's not so much fun.
No.
You wonder why in the world you left a steady paying job to do this.
Right.
So, how are you doing? How are things going with you? This has been an interesting couple of months.
Yeah. So just to give you a perspective, we're fine. We're good. And from the business front, I own a couple of businesses right now. Mm-hmm. I'm an author, a full-time author. My books have turned into these derivative businesses. And one is an accounting organization. We have 450 accountants that are teaching Profit First. Fix This Next, my new book. We have advisors there. What was so beautiful about these organizations is it gives me a perspective into what's happening. So I'm very on top of the changing accounting law with the PPP loans, changing in some cases by the hour. I have a perspective on how small business is being affected because our Fix This Next advisors are working with small business and giving feedback on what's going on. So for our business, we have this outlook into the industry, and it also serves a selfish motivator for the business is that it keeps it's an indicator of how our business is doing. So if I see how my clients, my accountants are doing and how their clients are doing, I have an indicator of what's coming my way. So we've been very fortunate. We've been able to navigate this journey so far effectively. We're not growing, gangbusters, but we're actually on a continued growth trajectory right now. I don't know if we'll sustain that. Of course, that's our intention, but we have to see what else the macro economy decides to present to us.
Let's talk about that a little bit. I mean, you're seeing a lot of you're working with a lot of companies. Your team's working with a lot of companies. What is happening in the market? I mean, what's truly happening? And you hear jobs reports, you hear a bunch of data that comes out of the news, but what are the pain points that a lot of the companies are feeling right now, and how are they navigating those?
Well, I think we've seen three responses, and some industries respond more toward one side and others to the others. But the three responses are this. We've seen business go into freeze up mode, meaning their response is no response, no action. So public gathering places like, a restaurant, many restaurants that we work with, we saw just froze up and said, this can't be real. This can't be happening. Business will return to normal. And because of their inaction have gone out of business because they couldn't sustain for the 3 months. And who knows how longer this will last. Even if law allows people to gather again, are people going to gather is the question, so freeze up is one. Desperation is another response. Desperation is where businesses are taking massive action, but without consideration for the impact. They're desperately doing things. There was one business in our own neighborhood who decided to slash prices by half, so 50% off everything to continue their sales. But their margins, as far as we understand, was about 10%. So by cutting their price by 50% at margins of 10, they're losing 40%. They're actually losing money the more they sell. They've actually just shuttered their doors, and it's pretty obvious why. But there's other businesses that are taking deliberate action after contemplating what to do next. And these businesses are saying, here's what's still working. I'm going to amplify that. Here's what's not working. So I'm going to jettison. And they're starting to reinvent. They're testing the market. They're asking their customers, how can we serve you in a new way? And those businesses are doing well. And it's funny thing is I see in every industry. So the restaurants are a great example because it's so relatable. Some restaurants have frozen up, done nothing. Some restaurants are acting out of desperation, trying to get a PPP loan to maintain things as normal, even though things clearly aren't normal.
It won't be, right?
Right. And one restaurant I so admire, they reached out to their biggest asset, which is not their inventory. It's not even their employees. It's their past patrons. They reached out to their past patrons and said, how can we serve you now? And they got feedback that cooking classes around their 5 or 6 most popular menu items would be a great idea. So they started cooking classes. So their past patrons now can still prepare their favorite meals from that restaurant at their house. Also, because it's over Zoom, connect with their community and their neighbors and see their neighbors. And this restaurant's more profitable than they were before the pandemic. So we're seeing all of those. I just wish I saw more reinvention and less desperation.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I love that idea of just showing people how to cook their favorite dishes, the popular dishes. Why not? That's fantastic. I like that. What is how does let's go back for a minute to profit first. How do you focus right now? I mean, what are the things? And I know you talked about some of those just now, but what should you focus on as a small, medium enterprise right now? Where do you put your attention? Because I know a lot of what you work on is focus and like finding the things that you should be working on, and like you said, get rid of the things that you shouldn't be working on and focusing on. How do you do that right now? I mean, because right now you're worried about employees, you're worried about that PPP loan, you're worried about that trying to figure out how to reinvent yourself or how to reshift your business. How do you decide? How do you sort of collate all that into what you really should be working on, what's not important right now?
Yeah, and profitability could be part of it. But I found 5 years ago, I wrote my most recent book. It's called Fix This Next. I found what I believe is the thesis of this book, what I believe to be the most preeminent challenge or problem that businesses have. The biggest challenge entrepreneurs face is knowing what their biggest challenge is. It's very apparent that we are fire extinguishers. Yeah. We're just putting out fire after fire because all these apparent issues present themselves. There's dozens or hundreds of things you can fix right now. So we just go to the next most apparent. And some businesses grow somewhat, and maybe the owner's no longer a fire extinguisher, they're a fire chief, but they're just still directing people to put out fires. At any given time, by definition, there only can be one most important need your business has. To identify it, I use this thing, I created it called the business hierarchy of needs. And it's a translation from Maslow's hierarchy of needs.
Mm-hmm.
Essentially, just the parallel for humanity. If you look at humanity and you peel back the skin of any person, on the exterior, we're different. We have different heights, weights, skin color, voice, and we judge on that. But if you peel back the skin of humanity, we're all the same. Our hearts are in the same spot. Every person's heart. If I went to the doctor today because I was having a heart attack, she wouldn't say, "Hey, Mike, your heart, is it in your foot?" Because we don't know. It's right. Always in the same spot. Right. The biology, the basic human biology is identical. The essence of humanity is identical. Well, when you look at business, when we peel back the skin of business, on the exterior, they're different. A manufacturer versus an accounting firm or whatever. But when you peel back the skin, it's essentially the same. And I find there's 5 elements that translate back to Maslow's hierarchy of needs, which are the human needs. There's 5 elements of business, or 5 needs of business. Foundationally, the first thing we must consider is, do we have adequate sales for our business right now? I call that the creation of cash, or the absorption. It's like taking in oxygen. It's like breathing. If you have no sales, your business is suffocating. Conversely, there's a certain level of sales that it becomes hyperventilation. There's businesses that say sales cures everything, and that is totally not true. Sales are necessary, but alone they're not sufficient. They must work in correlation with the other needs. So do we have adequate sales to support the next level of needs, which is profitability? And profit translates to the stability of an organization. You need profit in order to sustain. And as a business owner, that's how you achieve financial freedom, is through profitability. Warren Buffett said, and I'm paraphrasing, when the tide goes out, you see who's swimming naked. Well, the tide is going out, baby. And we see businesses that did not focus on profit, and they're done, or they're on their way out very quickly. So profit brings about stability. And if you haven't been historically profitable, that's your focus right now. And you can do it regardless of the recession or not. The next level, once profit is sustainably addressed, then we focus on order. Order is the creation of efficiency in an organization. Ultimately, the acid test for a small business is, if there's no dependency on the owner, if the business can grow in absence of the owner, you have a ordered business, a efficient business. I used to, when traveling was happening, travel and stop by McDonald's, pretty frequently, admittedly, because it's so convenient. And I started asking a question of the cashier. I'd say, "Hey, I'd like to speak with the owner." I probably did this over 50 times. And there was not one instance where they said, "Oh, the owner's in the back, let me grab them." The owner's making the fries right now, let me have them run out. The owner was never there. Actually, in one case, Rhett, I asked the cashier, I said, "Hey, may I speak to the owner?" And she looked at me, she goes, "I don't think I know who the owner is." And then she said, "Oh yeah, he came in 2 months ago to pick up the money." I'm like, that's when owner takes on the risk and makes the investment, but then empowers other people to do the work. That's efficiency. Once that's adequately addressed, then we have impact. Impact's the creation of transformation. It's where businesses are not in the business of transactions, but those transactions are transforming their clients' and customers' lives. The highest level is legacy. Legacy is the creation of permanence, where a business is designed to run into perpetuity. It's the continuance of the business that's more important than the involvement of the owner. So to find what we need to fix, all these elements are playing out in all businesses at all time, but only one area can have the most important need at the moment. So we always start at the foundation and say, do we have adequate sales? Do we have adequate profit? And they simply need to be adequate to support the level above it. It's like building a structure. Many businesses right now in this environment have been compromised on sales, but they don't have a sales problem. They actually have a profit problem. They still have some sales, but they're not extracting profit from it. So they do have adequate sales with inadequate profit, with the focus on profit. Other businesses, the only way to continue is by implying sales. And some actually need to focus greater on their efficiency through their organization. And this applies to micro businesses of one employee up to mega corporations. Amazon. Amazon lives within this business hierarchy of needs. And I would say March 14th, they were focusing on impact and legacy, really tweaking in that. March 15th, when the COVID pandemic was settling in, the mighty Amazon reverted back to its sales process and said, we got to sell in a whole new way. We're going to move to essential products. Our Prime system, we're going to change that around for now. So all of us will ping pong around the business hierarchy of needs, find the next fix, the thing that's being inadequately served, fix that, and then find the next fix.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I wish you had written that book in 2000, Profit First anyway. I wish that book had been written in like 2006. That would have been really, really
Yeah,
helpful.
right. I can tell you, Rhett, how many emails I get right now daily from readers of Profit First who implemented it before this recession and said, this has saved my life. And just as many readers saying, I just discovered a book. I wish I discovered this back in 2006 or in January of 2020. But admittedly, the next recession is coming after this one and the next after that. This is just a recurring pattern of entrepreneurship.
Yeah, it's a cycle, and but nonetheless, I wish it would have been written. But anyway, so how do you deal with uncertainty right now? Like in your decision making process, and I mean, it feels like right now, entrepreneurship is uncertain anyway, and you take risks. But I always had a philosophy of trying to take a managed risk. But it seems like that's harder now because we don't know, like you were talking about, we don't know if those customers are going to come back to the restaurant when it opens.
That's right.
Right. We don't know, and they're certainly not going to come back like they used to. I mean, that you can almost be assured of that until there's a vaccine and people have a little bit more confidence that, that their loved ones aren't going to get sick when they go out. I was reading something the other day. It was a really interesting thing. They interviewed 500 epidemiologists, and they all said when they were going to go back and do things. When would they go back to the movie theater? When would they go back to a restaurant? When would they go get a haircut again? And I thought that was a really interesting thing. But I mean, it showed me that we're going to be in this for a little bit. How do you deal with that? How do you deal with that uncertainty as an entrepreneur? I mean, and particularly with so much more stress now.
Oh, no question. So I do it two ways. One is the kind of the outward facing management, but also the internal mindset. So I'll start with the outward facing. I agree that we need to reinvent ourselves. I'm calling this the big hairy shift. Make sure you add the F there. The big hairy shift in the economy, and it's the great reinvention. What I need to do, what we all need to do, and I have done and continue to do, is ask our clients how to serve them now. The mistake is making the assumption and saying, I'm just going to continue business as normal, and watching clients not return, and you lose that opportunity. The other thing is also just making clients aware we're still around. They're experiencing, just like we are, shock. There's an overwhelm of information and distraction. So for many customers, if they don't know that we're still around, they actually may think we're gone. I'm not trying to pick on my own accountant, but my accountant went, I thought AWOL, just totally silent. March 15th happened. There was no call on March 16th or 17th or in May or in June or in April. And I'm like, what's going on? Is he out of business? Well, finally, I called him. He's like, yeah, we're around. The opportunity for him, for me, for all of us is to proactively reach out and simply say, hey, we're still in business. And the way to do it too is not saying, here's how I can sell you now. I think that sounds opportunistic. I actually, not to pick on Chevy, but I own a Chevy, so I'm going to pick on Chevy. I gives me the right. I own, the car's fine, whatever. But I got an email, actually a diatribe from Chevy that was probably the worst email I've ever seen. And the opening line, this is about a month or two ago, the opening line said, we're all in this together. The worst line you can use is we're all in this together. It's like, oh, here we go. Thanks, Chevy, for telling me the blatantly obvious and also for being opportunistic, right? So they stage me now to sell how they're going to be all in this with me. It goes on to say they clean their facilities and so forth. And then it said, we're ready to have to do an oil change for your car. And I'm like, oh, so you think I'm traveling a lot right now? I'm going from infected town A to infected town B? Like, thanks. And then, of course, it ends up saying, you ready to buy a car? Because we'll drop it off in your driveway right now. Disappointing. I got actually a letter. Do I still have it here? No, I think I threw it out. But I got a letter from MetLife. I'd never been necessarily a fan of MetLife. Really well written. It said, we simply are wishing you well in this pandemic. We can't even begin to comprehend how it's affecting you. And that is the God honest truth. We don't understand how other people are being affected in their health, their wealth, all the different elements that are being influenced by this. That's true acknowledgement. The next line went on to say, we are still, MetLife is still here to serve you in the way we have in the past, but we realize you may not need us in that way anymore. It then went on to say, if you need us in a new way, please notify us. We have our ears open to understand. And We also want you to know that we've reduced your insurance costs by, I think it was 15% for the next 2 months because most people aren't driving.
Yeah.
Beautiful communication. Reached out to say they're still in business, empathetic. They don't understand what I'm going through. Offered a service to me without me asking that was to my benefit. They simply just did it. And they said, how can I serve you? That's the best outward facing way to communicate. Kudos to that CMO. They should go work at Chevy and fix the Chevy problem.
Well, that's funny that you said that, because I was working with I was talking to a former CEO of Kia a couple months ago, and he was talking about that their campaign in, like, I think it was 2008 or no, it was during the Great Recession 12 years ago, and that's when they came back that's when they created that program where they'd buy back the car if you lost your job.
Love it.
And then, but he said, we only bought back like 5 cars, but it catapulted our brand because it showed emotional intelligence. It showed that we understood what people were going through, and our sales went through the roof, right?
Yeah.
You buy a car now. If you lose your job, something financially happens to you, we take the car back.
I don't imagine how many companies said, "Oh, that sounds like a great idea," but wait, the legal department says we're putting ourselves at great risk. Well, how are we going to validate if someone loses their job? We have to call all these legal parameters, and it got squashed in the bureaucracy. That's the irony of what's going to happen in this environment, Rhett, is the small business doesn't have to go through that bureaucracy. We can change on dime. The great innovations inevitably come out of recessions. Kudos to Kia for doing that, because it's the right thing to do. Small businesses can make decisions like that in the moment. So that's the outward facing. I also feel there's an inward component for managing the stress. I call it block control. And here's what happens. When I'm feeling overwhelmed, it's often because I'm just considering too much. I think that's the definition of overwhelmed. There's too much to comprehend. So I start putting blocks of time around what I'm considering. I rewind and say, I'm thinking about the whole future and all the problems are coming. What if I just consider getting through this year, the end of 2020, and put a block around it? How do I feel and what do I need to do? Well, if that still feels overwhelming, I then say, well, how about the next month? Let me not do a year. What can I control in the next month? And if that feels overwhelming, I keep on rewinding back to a week, to a day. Sometimes, and I've actually experienced depression, when I was extremely overwhelmed, I started using block control down to the minute. I said, I'm in bed and I don't want to get out of bed. What do I need to do? Just take one step and open your eyes. That's the thing I can do the next minute. Once my eyes were open, I said, just get a foot on the floor. With the foot on the floor, I said, get both feet on the floor, stand up, move forward. Well, in my business, some days when there's a lot of overwhelm, I'm like, what do I need to successfully complete the day or the next hour? It gives me control again, and I can start moving forward. So that's a real easy tool and effective tool, at least for me.
Yeah, I love that idea, and I kind of manage my day like that because I've got the worst case of ADD in the world. So if I don't block things, if I don't manage my day like that, absolutely. I mean, it's you get down one rabbit hole or another.
Yeah.
I've had to sort of learn that over time. What for you? What are you? And I hate to use the word excited about in all of this, but are there industries or kinds of companies you think are really going to come out of this? I mean, it takes me back again to 2000, the late 2000s, where you had, coming out of that recession, you had an Ubers and Airbnb, and you had all kinds of really innovative companies that came out of that. What anything that you're really excited about, that you're looking at and you're saying, wow, that's going to be huge?
Yeah. I think anyone in event industries, I'm actually really excited for it. It sounds weird because that is what seems to be the thing that's destroyed. But there's going to be new ways of doing events. Humans need humans. We need the tactile experience. And I see little innovation sparking out. Here's an example. A DJ hosts, a party, a gathering. One DJ, and I've only found one that's done this. One DJ said, I'm going to start driving in neighborhoods and setting up mini parties on a cul-de-sac. So people can walk out of their house right now and they can party in their yard, socially distanced for 15 minutes, whatever, and then go to the next cul-de-sac. Oh, and he's monetizing it because he has a sponsor. The local restaurants that are doing takeout, he says, hey, hope you enjoyed this flash party. Get your pizza at Jim's right now or whatever.
Love it.
Yeah, super innovative, right? There is going to be, I think, reconnection at the neighbor kind of level. I think there's actually going to be a de-virtualization, not completely, as we become more virtualized. So as we do more of what we're experiencing right now, this virtual format, there's going to be more and more focus, I think, back to the tactile experience of small micro communities. And the businesses that support that, I think, are going to thrive. So I think that's coming. There's other great innovations coming. I do know this. Experts, and I don't consider myself an expert, but anyone that tries to predict usually is wrong. So I could be totally wrong. I was listening to this book. I won't pick on the book. I won't give the title because I want to pick on the book. But this author wrote a book in the 90s explaining how all these different doctor platforms were coming out. He mentions these different platforms, WebMD is one of them and other ones. And he says of all these, I can't remember what it was, like Dr. Smith is the one that's going to succeed and WebMD is going to be an absolute failure because they're not following the instructions. Well, totally wrong prediction. So chances are my prediction's wrong. But I do know what does consistently happen is the unexpected will come out of this. People are reinventing, and there's going to be some magnificent new businesses out of this recession. And I think we have a choice as small business owners. Why not be us? Why not we be the ones who reinvent?
Yeah. So what inspired you? How did you get to the point that when you wrote Fix This Next, what was driving that? I mean, you've been doing this a bit.
Oh, yeah.
But how did you get to the core of it? Yeah.
So it was a technical faux pas on my behalf. I'm not the most technical savvy guy, and I sent out an email to my readership. I've written quite a few books now, so I'm blessed to have a readership I can reach out to and ask what challenges are you facing, and they're all entrepreneurs. So I emailed my readers and said, "What's the biggest challenge you're facing in the year ahead?" Expecting, whatever big challenge presents up. So I sent out that email. And I must have triple clicked or something because the email went out 3 times in the same day. Oops. And I got, in some cases, responses from the same person with different answers. They said their biggest challenge for the year in the morning was sales. In the afternoon, it was like hiring and recruiting. In the evening, it was their infrastructure in systems. And that's when it became very clear that the biggest challenge entrepreneurs face is knowing what their biggest challenge is. It wasn't just that guy and the other people that responded that way. It's all of us. Every morning we come in and say, this is the thing we need to fix. That's the thing we need to fix.
That's my plan today. That's my plan today to fix this, right?
Yeah. So the problem is we also rely on our gut and instinct. And for human survival, it's necessary. We have senses, our sight, our hearing, our smell. It all triggers off a response from our brain to say, that's an opportunity, that's a threat, that's a danger, that's something that's familiar and can be ignored. But when it comes to business, we're not neurologically wired into our business, yet we trust our gut. We say, I think we need more sales. Ooh, Facebook ads, that's what I need to do. And there's no empirical data behind it. So in Fix This Next, what I show is the structure of how to pinpoint what to find, but also to back it very easily with empirical data so this in fact is what the business needs, not just a gut response, because we're not neurologically wired into our business.
No, we're not. That's the truth. What for you, sort of the last question I always ask is, what's the best piece of advice you have right now for people, for entrepreneurs?
I would trust people's wallets and not trust their words. As we reinvent and you try to introduce a new offering of whatever it is very commonplace for us to reach out to our community, our friends, our past clients, our active clients, and say, what do you think if I did X? And we are overwhelmed by affirmations. You got to do that. That's amazing. I would so buy that. Then we spend the time and effort to develop it, and then they don't buy it. And you're like, where'd everyone go? And you're like, oh, I really don't think I need that. I have other obligations now. Sorry. Yeah. And we waste the time and effort. People speak the truth to their wallets. So here's one little tweak. When you have an idea and say, what do you think about it? And someone says, I love that. Say, great, I'm taking deposits right now. Put down your X dollars. And then you get the real truth. We say things through our words that are socially appropriate. It feels uncomfortable to tell someone, that idea sucks. It is hurtful to go to your friend and say, you shouldn't do that. That's really stupid. So we affirm because we want to support people. Yeah, go for that. It's great. but it doesn't mean it's a great idea. Far from it. You got to get people to put money down, because when they're taking on that risk of giving you money, that means they're betting on your idea. So get people to open wallets. And if you can't, they're giving you a great lesson that the idea is not there yet.
That is brilliant advice, because right now I bet I know money's a tough thing to ask for anyway. And a lot of people aren't very good at that. But right now it's absolutely critical. That guy, that's, if you got another couple of minutes, that spurred another question, actually.
Sure. Let's do it.
So how do you talk to, because talking about money is difficult. How do you talk with your employees right now about the financials of the business? I mean, is it good to bring them into where the company is? I don't want to scare people, but but I think it's smart to be realistic with people and tell them where you are. Would you recommend that as well, or is that?
I've been on both sides of it, and I do recommend open book management while protecting one element, and it's the individual compensation of your employees and yourself. That I don't reveal how people are being compensated, but every other number, our revenue, profitability, our OpEx, all that stuff is revealed. And what I found is, in the past, when my business hit $1 million in revenue, my employees thought I was taking home $1 million. They literally did. And it's like, no, I have no money. I am nearly bankrupt. They had no comprehension of that. Now that we've revealed, here's the revenue, here's the spend of the business, my colleagues are aghast of how expensive it can be to run a business. And when we share what the profitability is, and when we share the actual profit, they're very driven for it. I think it's no coincidence that the businesses I run today are the most profitable businesses I've ever had, in part because everyone knows what it takes to operate a profitable business. So I keep it open. And they know when we're facing tough times financially, they're aware of it and they're acutely aware of it. So I think it is good. But, as leaders too, we don't want to scare our employees. Coming into work saying, "Oh my God, we are in trouble." Like, that's probably not a good move. That's not leadership. Leadership is, hey, we're facing tough times, really tough times, but I have a plan to address this. I need you to work with me, and let's do this. That's better leadership than pulling your hair out.
I was talking to somebody the other day, and they'd had a brilliant strategy with the come back to work strategy, which was they said, look, they got the employees together and said, look, we're going to come back to work at some point. We want you guys to kind of come up with the way we do it. We want you guys to be part of it. Since this affects you, we want you guys to design the come back to work policy and strategy and how we're going to work together in an office. And I thought that was a really good way to sort of help people become part of the solution, and actually have some ownership of it. And I thought that was really smart, because I think that was weighing on people. It's got to be weighing on people's minds.
Of course. I love the idea. Yeah. Involve the people affected by a problem to create the solution. No question. Love it.
Yeah. Hey, Mike, thank you so much.
Rhett, it's been a joy. Thank you. Take care.
And let me ask you this. How do you get the book, Fix This Now?
Thank you. Yeah, Fix This Next.
Right.
Yeah. So the website is called fixthisnext.com. The cool thing I've going on there is, if you go there, you can get the book, of course, but we have a free evaluation for all businesses. No downloads or anything. Just click on, take the evaluation. It'll take 5 minutes, but it will pinpoint exactly what your business needs from you right now. Fixthisnext.com.
And they can bring you on to speak and other things. I guess they can contact you through that as well.
Yeah. So it'll link to my main site, and you can learn about my other work. I do speaking, mostly virtual, it seems at the moment, but yeah, I do all that. Thank you.
Okay. Well, we'll put that link in the show notes so that people can get directly to it. Again, thank you, Mike, and thank you for spending some time with us here today on Power Lunch. You can check out the schedule, powerlunch.live. Powerlunch.live. We've got a great lineup coming up next week, so check that out. And until then, stay safe, healthy, and we'll see you next week.